What's going on, housemates? Marcelo here. I hope you're doing well wherever you're watching this video from around the world and that you've had a nice end to the week. Of course, before the return of Arsenal tomorrow, it's going to be a brief one for me today, just briefly going through what I expect to see in terms of our starting 11 and, of course, how important tomorrow's game is. So we are back at the Emirates. It feels like it's been so long since we played there, even though it probably hasn't been, relatively speaking. But of course, after Liverpool's midweek draw, we now have a huge opportunity to apply some serious pressure on them before they play against Manchester City at the Etihad on Sunday. So if Manchester City were to win on Sunday, we would be 5 points behind Liverpool with a game in hand, with the opportunity to cut the lead at the top of the table down to 2 points, which is simply remarkable when you think about everything that we've had to deal with this season. And again, like I've said, the fact that we're even in the conversation still is something to be really proud of. So in terms of the 11 I'd like to see tomorrow, it's the exact same 11 that I went with against Leicester, and that is David Raya in goal, Timber at right back, Saliba and Gabriel at center back, Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back, Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, and Martin Odegaard in midfield, and a front three of Leandro Trossard, Mikel Merino, and Ethan Nwaneri. Now, of course, that was the front three that made the difference at the end of the day against Leicester. Ethan Nwaneri setting Mikel Merino up with the first goal with a beautiful cross, and Merino applying a striker's finish with his head. And then the second goal, Leandro Trossard, as he's often done in recent weeks, playing a really nice cross in with his left foot, and Mikel Merino again finishing like a true number 9 does. Given our circumstances, we don't really have much of a choice, frankly, but for Mikel Merino to be our starting striker. Now, some folks are saying Merino won't start. It'll be the same starting front three, Sterling, Trossard, and Nwaneri. And I think that is definitely possible. Merino could be a better option off the bench, perhaps. But I think he's a focal point that Leandro Trossard just isn't able to be. His style of play and his physical profile just don't give him that same pivot, that same reference point, as someone who can hold the ball up, win aerial duels. Merino has shown already that he's really capable of that. The chance wherein Nwaneri hit the post, if you go back to it, starting from the throw and deep in our own half, Odegaard booted it upfield. Merino did brilliantly to bring the ball out of the air and, start that counterattack, which led to Nwaneri almost scoring with his weaker right foot. And of course, the goals, the first goal, we've seen Havertz miss some sitters with what should have been his head. You think of the Newcastle game, first leg of the Carabao Cup, where he hit it with his shoulder by accident. And even the second goal, I can't say with chest that Kai Havertz scores both or either of those chances. So, and you also think about how poor Sterling was. It hurts to say, but he just looked so far off the pace. And after that game, his confidence will be at rock bottom. So, considering how crucial every minute of every remaining game is now, I just don't see why we would start Raheem Sterling again. It just doesn't make sense to me. I would even start Kieran Tierney at left wing over Sterling, even if Trossard is starting as our center forward, as our false 9, whatever you want to call him. So that's the 11 I've gone with. The only other change I've seen shouted, which would make sense, I think, is starting Jorginho ahead of Thomas Partey in midfield, especially because we have Nottingham Forest midweek coming up, and that's going to be a really tough game. So maybe resting Partey because he was pretty awful against Leicester, it has to be said. So maybe he could use a rest. He's played way more football than he's been used to at Arsenal, given how poor his injury record has been with us. But I want to see that 11, and I think that 11 could very comfortably get the job done. This is a poor West Ham team, even since Graham Potter joined them. They've lost their last 3 games in all competitions, and they just haven't looked like a team that's much of a threat. They're sitting just above the relegation zone. Now in the Premier League, anything can happen, and they have a few really good players. Of course, Kudus and Paqueta are the first names that come to mind. But yeah, they've got quality players throughout. So no game is easy, but given the context of the title race and how much motivation these players should have between Liverpool drawing and knowing that they have to face City, a really poor City side, it has to be said, of course, but that is a fixture where you never know. City might be motivated a little bit more, especially after they got humiliated in Madrid in the Champions League. They crashed out 6-3 on aggregate. So, I don't want to get my hopes too high, but as long as we're able to push this as far as possible, given everything that's going on, that's more than enough for me. And obviously, I'd rather have a title at the end of the season, a first one in 21 years. But, you know, circumstances are circumstances. So we keep moving. And I will be with you after the game, of course, to share my thoughts about how we played. Hopefully, we're celebrating another 3 points, and then we can have a nice, neutral. I guess I don't know if neutral is the right word, but a nice hate watch on Sunday. So until then, folks, have a great end of your week. Enjoy your Friday, and I will be with you again tomorrow. Come on, you Gunners. Peace.